Шановні колеги, ми будемо продовжувати робочий день. До слова запрошується речник.
Dear colleagues, we continue our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center. And now I give the floor to Ministry of Defense spokesman on ETO-related issues, Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk. Good afternoon, dear friends. Today, Ukraine celebrates two military holidays. The Day of the Missile Forces and Artillery Forces Day and Engineering Forces Day. And modern armed forces, it is impossible to imagine them without these forces, and artillery personnel proved its efficiency in defending sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Field engineers deactivated thousands of mines that threatened the lives of military personnel and civilians. They also helped to deliver humanitarian help to frontline area. And it is them who know real cost of fault and the daily risk to provide security for civilians. We greet artillerymen, missile forces, field engineers and military engineers, and we honor the memory of those who died. And also the situation in the ETO area during the last 24 hours. The situation was not calm in Lugansk area. The hottest spot was Krymsky village. From the early morning, the enemy started shelling our positions with the use of mortars. Then they started to use cannons, and after 10 p.m. the enemy launched at our positions 30 shells from grads and 25 artillery shells. And the enemy delivered fire with the use of the weapons that is less than 100 millimeter from Sokolniki village and exceeded 100 millimeter caliber in the weapons that was used from occupied Slovenoserbsk. And in Stanica Luganska, the situation was not calm. It was one heavy shelling that lasted 4 hours without break. And the enemy used small arms and also mortars and armored vehicles. In Vanovka-Popasnyansky region, there was military clash between the forces of ATO and the occupants. The military action lasted 30 minutes, and Ukrainian forces repelled the enemy without losses, and in the same area there were a number of enemy shellings recorded. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Lugansk area, there were 12 enemy shellings, including 8 with the use of heavy weapons and 1 military clash. The Donetsk area, traditionally the main military actions were in Avdiivka production area. The tactics of the enemy remains the same. It delivers multi-hour heavy shellings, mortar shellings mainly, at our positions. The number of the mortar shells launched exceeded 80, and also enemy violated ceasefire in Troitsk, where the enemy used mortars and armored vehicles, and in Novgorodsk, both shellings were long-term. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Donetsk area, there were 8 enemy shellings, including 5 with the use of heavy weapons. The situation in Mariupol area remains the same. In Krasnogorovka, Gnutova, and Shirokina, there was a number of mortar shellings delivered by the enemy. And moreover, the enemy used mortars in Taramchuk and Talakivka, and there it was rarely. And at our positions, the enemy launched about 200 mines, and Ukrainian forces returned fire. And yesterday in the evening in Vinogradna village, in the course of enemy shellings, 4 residential houses were damaged, and also gas pipeline was damaged, leaving 600 houses without gas supply.
Таким чином, всього за добу
Thus, near Mariupol, during last 24 hours, in total, there were 26 enemy shellings, and out of them, 12 were from heavy weaponry. I am very pleased to inform you that during the last day, we have no killed servicemen in Ukrainian troops, but unfortunately, one serviceman was wounded, which happened near Avdiivka due to the enemy's shelling. The SBU of Ukraine have founded 4 storages in the ATO area. Thus, they expropriated anti-tank gun, 4 grenade launchers, 2 charges, 2 grenades, and more than 2,000 cartridges near Toshkevka to the southern of Bakhmut highway. The policeman expropriated the ammunition. They expropriated grenade launcher and 1,000 of cartridges 5.45 millimeter. This was a present to the former resident of this house. At the checkpoint in Pokrovsk, the law enforcement had expropriated the explosive ordinance, which consisted of 200 grams of TNT ordinance and 1 charge, and this was revealed by a service dog called India. Probably this was intended to be used for terrorist acts, and thus the service dog had rescued a lot of lives. In the central part of Mariupol, the grenade without charge was expropriated. Ukrainian artillerists and missile forces commemorate their day in the fields and classes. Thus, they mastered new equipment. In military academy in Odessa, for all 4 years, students were involved into special training these days. Also, in Sumy region, special contest among sappers is being held these days. They are demonstrating, our servicemen are demonstrating efficient counteraction to the explosive ordnance, demining, and installation of the explosive ordnance to prevent the enemy's offensive. Chief of the General Staff, General Muzhenka, 4-star General Muzhenka, handed trophies to the winners. Near Lviv region, the 2nd stage in National Guard's exercise started, and also participants of the Fearless Guardian 2015 forces were involved to these exercises. These days, the National Guard's officers near Mariupol handed the presents from the Ministry of Defense in Latvia to orphanages and children's houses. Children were very happy. Since there are no questions, thank you very much for your attention.